going to go over how to plant a blueberry and blackberry patch for your home garden, which in our area, if you don't know already, the dirt is great. We have a brown sandy loam typically in our area, and we have great growing conditions. And believe it or not, we have varieties of blueberries and blackberries that really do good here. So stay tuned and we'll go over how we planted a blueberry patch. Number one, location, location, location. And no, it's not just about finding that perfect home or property, but it's the location of where you decide to put your blueberry or your garden for that matter. It's very important to have the right type of soils, or if you have a heavier soil, you have to take into consideration the drainage. You also want plenty of sunshine with at least 5 hours a day. You don't want to plant your blueberries or your blackberries next to a bunch of trees or other bushes that the roots could interfere with your blueberry or blackberry patch. You also don't want to plant it next to trees or buildings. With the exception of pine trees, you can plant blueberries not too far from pine trees because they like the acidic pine needles that the pine trees do shed occasionally. Number two, check the pH. It's very important to have the proper pH for your garden area and for your blueberry and or blackberry patch. If your pH is too high, you need to add some sulfur. If your pH is too low, you might need to add some lime. And you need to do this a couple of months before you decide to plant your plants and work it into the soil so it has time to activate with the soil. Blueberries need a pH in the area of 4.5 to 5.5, but blackberries like it a little bit higher, 5.5 to 6.5 range. You may also use pine bark and mulch and fertilize specifically for acid-loving plants to lower your pHs. And I always recommend adding a little bit of peat moss and some black cow, which is great because we tend to have more soils that are on the sandy side, and blueberries especially like some organic matter. So it's great to add that and amend your soils before you plant. Number three, pick out the right variety in your area. We are in zone 8 and 8B here in the Panhandle. Most blueberry plants need a certain amount of chilling hours, so make sure you get the correct variety that thrives in your area. Rabbit eye varieties grow the best in our region, and you should plant at least 2 varieties for cross-pollination. I planted Brightwell and Powder Blue in my garden. They're not the first to ripen in our area, and they're not the plants that most people grow commercially in our area. However, they're great producers, and they are great for the home gardener. They're not as susceptible to frost damage. We do get a few days of frost in our area, and these won't bloom and get damaged because they're a little bit later blooming after the frost. Number 4, water your plants and be consistent with this. If it's possible, it may be beneficial for some of us that are extremely busy to install an irrigation system. That way you can program when and the amount of water that you want to apply to your plants. This is very important when you first establish your berry patch to make sure the roots don't dry out. Typically they recommend watering them every other day for the first 6 months, but it also depends on, of course, how much rainfall you get and the temperatures. In the springtime, when the plants are fruiting, it's most important to have irrigation and plenty of water for your plants. And typically in our area, this can be where it's more of a drier time for us, so you want to have the option of having an irrigation system. And I recommend a drip irrigation because you're not spraying water all over the leaves. It's more water friendly as far as conservation practices go, and you're not going to damage your fruit with spraying it down with water. We also use a programmable timer. You can get timers such as the one that I installed that run off of batteries and don't need an electrical wire running to them. Number 5, fertilizing. I would recommend a plant food that's suitable for azaleas, and the University of Florida recommends 1.5 ounce per plant if you mulched around them like I did, or 1 ounce per plant if you did not mulch around your plants. They also recommend fertilizing in April, June, August, and October, which means I need to do some fertilizing because I didn't do it. But now that my blueberry plants have been in the ground for a few weeks, I might sprinkle them with a little bit of fertilizer. You have to be very careful, however, because you can over-fertilize berry plants in particular, and they don't like it and they will die on you. As far as the blackberries, IFAS, or University of Florida, recommends a 1/4 pound of 10-10-10 with micronutrients about 12 inches from the base of the plant in a parallel fashion. Number 6, we did put trellises up for our blackberries. And in the pictures you can see that we used some old fence posts, 2 bracing posts to keep the field fencing from sagging, and that should be very adequate for these type of blackberries. Finally, for additional resources, you can click here to a link to the IFAS resource guide for blueberries and blackberries. You may also consult your local Ag Extension office in your area for the county that you reside in, and they'll be more than happy to help you as far as any problems, any pest control, fertilizer requirements, what type and variety that they recommend to plant. So if you like my videos, please take time to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you won't miss any more videos about our area and some gardening tips for our area.